exciting thing to be involved with. My job was programming, so choosing the acts, and I focused a lot on the talks. So yeah, I think at one point I was running maybe 8 or 9 stages across 5 or 6 different festivals, booking hundreds of people, things from from politicians and journalists to poets and musicians and comedians. And then that obviously what you're doing there is you're promoting, so you are so that is something that I found quite useful in with Low Morph, with the marketing and stuff. It was a big shift though, obviously it's very different, but there are certain parts of it that I found useful. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go straight into Lone Wolf. Your father asked you to complete the series in the final weeks of his life. Can you describe what you felt and what you agreed to?
So it was very matter of fact. He just said, like, you'll be taking over Lone Wolf, and here are the people that you'll be working with, and this is how I want it to end. I didn't fully grasp in the moment exactly how big a job this would be. I suppose when I saw the reaction from the fans on Facebook to the news, that was the first inkling, I think, of like, oh wow, okay, this is quite a big deal. But it was incremental. I had a lot of help. I didn't really. I don't feel the full weight of it all on my shoulders. I'm kind of just facilitating other people, really, is what it feels like. And I took on more and more responsibility slowly. So it wasn't like suddenly you're in charge of everything. And to be honest, like there was quite a lot to do. He led quite a humble, small life. He didn't he didn't really. It wasn't like a big business. It was he was just kind of happy selling books to the fans directly and occasionally writing. I mean, it was really coming to understand how much needed to be done to get Lone Wolf back in shape. And that's where the idea for the definitive editions came from, and that was quite exciting because it was a job that actually needed to happen, and it did kind of have to be me. Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird period. I mean, obviously there's I'm sure lots of people who are listening have been through something similar, but work isn't really top of your mind in a situation like that.
Of course, of course. You have said you weren't really a game book fan growing up. How did that outsider perspective of that is not being a super fan actually help you write the final books?
I've come to appreciate that it's actually really useful. And I mean, my job as a programmer really was learning to have faith in my own taste, and judgment. So I've just kind of relied on that, really. And Vincent is so important to this. I mean, more important than me. Yeah. He's it's really him and my dad who wrote the first of the posthumous books. And I'm just an editor. I just kind of I'm quite lucky that I do have some experience in writing, and I know I know I think I know what a good story is. And not being weighed down by the fandom, it would have been very easy to write fan fiction, basically. And whereas we make a good team, me and Vincent and my dad, the three of us, really. It's a good balance, I think.
Vincent is next question. Vincent Lazari is described
Yeah.
as having been almost closer to the lore of Magnemund than anyone alive. How did the collaboration between you two, actually work in practice?
So he basically turns my dad's notes into a first draft. And he puts as much detail and names and dates and items and law as he can into the draft. And then my job is really to go through and throw a lot of it out, and just kind of sculpt it into a good story. So we work on the flow chart together. I'm more involved now than I was. And then he puts all of his ideas down, and then I come through, and then it goes through to the editors who then pick apart my work. So it's a very collaborative process.
Daddy in the Deep won the Libro Games Land, Italian Libro Games Land Award for Best International Game Book. Did that recognition change the weight you felt on your shoulders for the books that followed?
I'll be lying if I said it didn't add pressure. It was, I mean, I really don't think we can take much credit for Dead in the Deep because my dad had already done so much work on it. I mean, Vincent did a huge amount too, but it really, that book was my dad's story, and I mean, it was a great story. It was a really classic lone wolf adventure, very very economical. It was a classic dungeon crawl, amazing twist at the end, and yeah, and then it was like, okay, boys, now you have to step up. And by the way, your dad did a really good job on this last one, so it had better be good. So yeah, the next one was definitely harder. Um, yeah.
Um, Light of the Sky is split into two volumes. No? Uh, was that a creative decision, a practical one, or both?
Both. It was we were suddenly being forced to make decisions to cut things that we didn't want to cut, and the book would have ended up being maybe 2,000 pages, and it was just an obvious choice, and it gives the fans more books, which isn't a bad thing. Um, yeah, once that decision, once we saw that as an option, it was obvious that's what we should do. It really wasn't a difficult decision.
Okay. Um, you have a creative writing degree and wrote TV scripts and plays with your father. How much of that dramatic training is visible in the structure of a game book?
So screenwriting teaches you economy of words. You've got to try and communicate visual ideas in as few words as possible. It's so you're training this editing muscle, and it also teaches you certain archetypes and story structures. Um, you need to know when you're being derivative and when you're playing with, you know, pop culture vernacular, and all of that is really useful. You are striking this balance um, between how much you leave to the imagination and how much you spell out to the reader. And obviously, it's an interactive book, so you want to leave quite a lot to the imagination. And so, but you don't want it to feel like that's what you're doing. You know, to give them something. But that's quite fun. And yeah, it was it's a visual medium, obviously. So we write quite visually, and you're asking the reader all the time to visualize stuff, and I have to remember to bring the emotional core into it sometimes, because that can be missing sometimes in game books. They can be a little bit too prescriptive. I mean, like, that this is happening to you. It doesn't really tell you how you feel a lot of the time. But like I said, it's a balance. But that's fun.
Uh, Next question is out of my curiosity, and correct me if I'm wrong. Your father worked as a recording engineer with Frank Zappa. Peter Gabriel, and Sex Pistols. Did that musical sensibility pass on to you? And do you see connection, you know, between rhythm in music and rhythm in prose?
Yeah, definitely. You tend to read what you've written out loud, and if it sounds good coming out of your mouth, then that's a sign that you can then move on to the next bit. Um,
That's very
I've
interesting.
worked, yeah, I've worked. I mean, that's even more true in Italian, right? I mean, I have to give huge props to Paolo, our Italian translator, who, I mean, I don't speak Italian, so I can only assume he does a good job, but I'm told he does.
Very good job.
Um,
Very good job.
Good, yeah. I mean, yeah, I've worked in and around music forever, and I played the guitar, and my dad played the bass, so we used to play music a lot together. Um, but yeah, prose is very musical. At least it should be when it's good.
Um, the Lone Wolf universe is expanding with Huntress trilogy by Jonathan Stark. What does it mean for Olmgard to have a new author writing a Magnum, and how do you protect the integrity of the world?
So we have a style guide. I mean, you know, I'll look at the initial. We get a lot of proposals for ideas, and I'll look through the proposal with as impassive editorial eye as I can. You can tell the strength of an idea very quickly normally, and then we bring in the wider editorial team, and you know, a good idea is usually pretty obvious. I mean, I'm very excited for The Huntress to be published in Italy. I think it's incredibly innovative and really well executed, and I think it's had a great response from the fans. And Jonathan's become a really key member of the team, so it's always great working with him. The temptation with spin-offs is for everything to connect to the main series and for it to either be a prequel or to run concurrently to something the fans already know, but for him to come up with a completely new concept in a different timeline with a whole different set of characters and a location that hadn't yet been explored thoroughly was what made it really fresh and exciting. And I think that is, I've learned a lot from that. And the future of Lone Wolf is about creating something that stands on its own 2 feet, like the Huntress, but also builds the lore of the universe, rather than just doing, you know, oh, what if this character went off and, oh, you remember that bit from book 6 when wouldn't it be cool if we had a book set? And that's kind of easy, like, and obvious. Yeah, I mean, what we do next is the big question. You know, I'm sure we'll come to that later, but I mean, taking big swings like Huntress is a good. I think it works. Yeah.
On this note, the Lone Wolf Anthology, Volume 1, brings in 12 different authors and illustrators. Is the anthology format the future of how you want to expand Magnum?
Well, the one of the big strengths we have is this fan base who have grown up with the books and who are now, you know, fully grown, well-rounded creatives, and a lot of them are really talented. So when it was Shane Walsh-Smith who came to me with the idea, and I thought, yeah, okay, let's put it out there and see what the response is like. And the response was crazy. I mean, we had over 100 submissions. I think there's something like 25 short stories that we picked. And obviously some are better than others, but the quality was really, really great. I mean, some of them are outstanding. This was Shane's project 100%. I mean, I just gave it the green light and let him run with it, and he's amazing. Shane, he came on as a proofreader. He still proofreads for us. Incredibly diligent, really, he's just a really cool guy to work with. And I think what he did with that was a huge achievement. There's 2 volumes.
2 volumes. Okay.
2 volumes, yeah. So I think I don't know if it's being published in Italy yet, but
I
I
don't
hope
think
it
so.
is. I hope both are. Well, I hope they are. and I'd love to do more of those. Yeah, it's like I said, it's so great. It was dedicated to the fans, the books. So it's like by the fans to the
Yeah, of
fans, which was
course.
really,
For the
really cool.
fans, by the fans.
Yeah.
Um, the live action interactive series with Core Media, has been in development since 2020. What is the current status, and how do you approach the challenge of adapting a second person, choose your own adventures format to screen?
So that was something called a fishing agreement, which is where they are given the right to go out and find money and other producing partners to hopefully get an option. That hasn't moved forward yet, but we've separately been working on a script for a live, not well, it could be live action, but we're pitching it as an animated series. I think the Kai series would make a really good 9 or 10 part animated TV series, and the pilot script for that has been quite a fun process. I'll be honest, like I've my attention was distracted by the book that we've just finished, Light of the Kai. So
Of course.
it's something that I'd like to get back into. I think I see it as sitting somewhere between Castlevania and Blue Eye Samurai.
Oh,
It's fun, like the game, the second person format of game books, it doesn't adapt directly, and we're using it more as inspiration. There's a lot of big changes to the story and the script, and there has to be for it to work as a TV show. But
it's an
you've got to.
adaptation. So
Hmm?
it's an adaptation. So
It's an adaptation, yeah, yeah. It's just something fun for us to be working on in the background, really. I mean, like from my understanding of these things, which is very limited, like lightning has to strike for stuff like this to actually happen. There's lots of people have to make the decisions at the right time um, for stuff like this to happen. But the more that you can put in place so that when the opportunity comes, you can take advantage of it, the better. So having a fully formed script to be able to say, look, this is what it could look like would be a great first step, I think. So that's something I need to refocus on.
okay. After the second volume of Light of the Sky.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, yeah, hopefully before.
before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, at the time, you described Lone Wolf as a fantasy JD hybrid with depth and mythology to rival Middle Earth. After living inside this universe for nearly a decade, do you still believe that?
I mean, with a depth to rival Middle Earth, I mean, I think I had my promoter hat on when I said that. It's Middle Earth is a benchmark, and Dad was hugely influenced by it, of course. I mean, all fantasy writers are, but you know, I think comparisons miss the point that he created something that stands on its own merits, I think, and he created this playground really for us to explore through storytelling. You can if like Star Wars, for example, has massive scale and hundreds of published works and movies and novelizations and comics and all kinds of stuff. But I don't think that
Enormous,
the mythology,
enormous. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think the mythology of Star Wars is necessarily that deep, really. Whereas Tolkien, at the other end of the spectrum, he only published 2 books, and the mythology is
It's,
hugely rich.
it's very big. Yeah.
Yeah, whereas Lone Wolf kind of strikes it is somewhere between the two. It has the consistency and the scale. Um, yeah, I mean, full credit to my dad. Yeah, he was kind of going off and exploring and riffing, but he was making notes and he was stayed consistent. And it's kind of remarkable, really, how well formed and consistent the lore actually is, given that I think a lot of the time he was improvising.
Okay. Next question is out of fans' curiosity. Um, the family name was originally DeVere, correct me if I'm wrong, changed by your great grandfather to Deva. Um, you yourself prefer Deva. There's a sense of inheritance and identity in the name itself, as writing Lone Wolf changed your sense of who you are in relation to your father.
Well, I mean, DeVere is my name. That's the name I was given. Diva is the pen name. That's the writing name. So on the cover of a book, you know, it's Diva because
Never. Okay.
sometimes, you know, if it will say story by Joe Diva, written by Vincent and Ben DeVere. If it said DeVere, people would just confuse people. So
Yeah, of course.
I use the same name simply for that reason. But in all other instances, I like to use my name because that's my real name. That's it. But I mean, the real question is, I suppose, to do with my relationship with my dad since I took over, and yeah, he still feels incredibly present through the work, which is wonderful. I mean, I'm lucky I still have a relationship with him, I suppose you could say. I didn't work on it while he was alive because he didn't need me to. There was no reason for me to work on it. That was his domain. And now I choose to, and I have to. It's very strange sometimes that he's not here to consult, and that's hard. But the people that I work with are the next best thing, I suppose.
Okay. Um, this is from the heart. Italy has always been a passionate lone wolf market. The Italian edition of Dead in the Deep was actually published before the English one. What does the Italian fan community mean to you?
Well, my dad considered Italy his second home, I think, and it was hugely important to the revival of Lone Wolf. I think Vincent Books and Raven republishing and rebuilding the fan base. Full credit to Paolo and Roberto and the whole team over there. Like they've done an incredible job. I'm going to Bologna this weekend for the launch. I'm really excited about that. I think Italy's probably the biggest lone wolf market globally, which is amazing. And that's where I felt what lone wolf really means to people viscerally. And going there for the first time to Lucca was really important. And yeah, meeting the Italian fans. That's kind of the whole point of this, really, isn't it? And so big
Yeah.
shout out to thank you to all the Italian Wolfpack. I mean, they've been amazing and they've kept the books alive.
Next question about the wolf pack. The wolf pack, that is the fan community, actively helped correct and improve the manuscripts. How do you think about the relationship between author and fandom in a universe like Lone Wolf?
You've got to like this is where me coming at it with fresh eyes is useful. You've got to disassociate yourself from the fandom because otherwise you miss the bigger picture. I mean, like creative decisions can be really difficult until you find the right answer. And then it's kind of like obvious. You just kind of you train this muscle of like just feeling when something's right, and that tension of it not quite feeling right is something that you actually appreciate. Like that means you're getting there, you know. I mean, the truth is I don't really know the universe well enough still to know when I'm pushing against what my dad would do versus what he wouldn't do, and that's that's kind of useful, I guess. The whole thing still feels like a bit of a stretch, but I have to keep saying that the people I work with are just really important, and it's also important that they don't have the final decision sometimes.
On this note, about creative decision, what is the hardest creative decision you've made as an editor, as a writer on this series? A moment where you knew you were going somewhere your father's notes did explicitly cover. If there
Gosh, I mean, the whole of the book that was just written pretty much feels like a stretch. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's you just kind of learned to know, to feel when something feels right. I mean, it's like I said, it's I just wish sometimes I could like call my dad and say, what do I do? But that's, yeah, that's just the way it is. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing feels like that. Sometimes we're just kind of guessing. I mean, it's a cliche, but as long as you do the best you can, that's kind of all you can do.
Um, with Light of the Sky Volume 1 now released, what state of mind are you in? Is there grief at the approaching end, relief, or something else entirely?
Um, it will be a huge relief when it's finished. Obviously, you just have to stop wishing you could go back and change things because it's never good enough. Um, I, uh, I mean, I love working on Lone Wolf, but at the same time, it's working from home by yourself. It's quite a lonely existence. So I do have a job as well, programming a charitable members club in Soho. So I've just started having a reason to leave the house, which is good. The future of Lone Wolf is probably licensing and approving and rubber stamping new projects, and giving this platform to the fans. Like I said, like for creators to explore this
Uh-huh.
sandbox that is created. The definitive editions really are that's the main task, even more so than finishing the books. It's creating, like what Raven are doing, a consistent edition of the work in a single edition across various formats, like so that the whole work, sits as a consistent product, like a whole package. That's never happened over 42 years. So that's really important. And the definitive editions really is the legacy. That's the lasting testament really to the work. And so we're in the UK, we are now at book 20, I think. And hopefully in maybe 2 years, I think we'll have everything published and the final book. And yeah, that will feel like that's a big tick. That will feel like that's done. And then focus on
Moving on.
moving on, well, not moving on, but bringing new readers into the universe to
Uh,
explore it for the first time, for a new generation, which will be great. And they're coming to it with this full package. That'll be a new experience. It has an
um,
ending.
after the Lone Wolf saga is finally complete, what comes next for Ben DeVere? A writer, publisher, producer?
I mean, like I said, I'm starting my programming work again. And I'd love to see it adapted for television or for a movie or something like that. That would be wonderful. And games, the board games coming soon, miniatures and skirmish games as well. There's so much we can do with it. It would be lovely at some point to have some kind of digital product. As much as I love the tactile, physical media,
On the book, yeah.
there isn't an official digital. Well, obviously there's the Switch game, which is great, but it'd be lovely to have an official, an app or some kind of game of some kind, some description. I mean, Lone Wolf is perfect for some kind of AAA computer game, I think, and that would be a huge deal if that happened. So once the definitives are done, I should really focus on the licensing.
Okay. Last question. Uh, finally, what would you want a first-time reader, perhaps an Italian teenager, who has never heard of Lone Wolf, to feel when they open Flight from the Dark for the first time?
Fear, excitement, immersion, this sense that there's an entire world to explore, because there is. I feel quite jealous of people coming to it for the first time. That
Yeah,
would
me
be,
too. Me too. Yeah.
yeah. I would tell them to stay away from boats. Yeah.
Okay, Ben. This has been everything I hoped it will be and more. On behalf of every Italian World War fan, grazie, grazie mille. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And I hope we'll see you in Bologna in the next week.
Yeah, you will. You'll see me on
Yeah,
Saturday with my
okay.
daughter and
I'll be
Vincent as well. So
I'll be there
yeah,
on
I'm really
Saturday.
great. I'll see you there.
We we can we could
Grazie.
catch them.
Yeah.
Okay, bye. Bye.
Ciao.